Hello, I'm Toycat, and recently I found a texture pack that combines all the whimsical benefit of a cartoon pack while being just as beautiful and serious as a fantasy one. I like this texture pack so much that I contacted the people behind it, and they said in exchange for sharing their great work, they'd add a fun painting for me, as well as a great Easter egg to do with your headwear. So join me today for a full review of what is fast becoming my favorite texture pack, and we'll be splitting this into 7 major parts. We'll start with the 10 features I love the most after spending some time with it, then we'll do the normal texture pack review where we check out the overworld, the builds, the nether, the caves, and the end separate to each other to see if it can really do everything, and then finally give you a verdict. This is going to be a lot of fun, and so subscribe if you want to join me for number 1 on my features I love. And first is going to have to be the camels. I think adding flair to mobs without making them unrecognizable can be very hard, but the camel is a great example of doing something small with a mob and adding so much to it. I also like the way that the jump or dash bar works on these mobs. It's a small but important change. Secondly, I love mob heads and carved pumpkins. There is another really good reason to like carved pumpkins that will come up later in this video, but for now, just know they're ridiculous when you put them on armor stands, and ridiculously cute is really the way I should put that, but I think this is really, really fun. That definitely also applies to decorated pots, by the way. Here is my lovely decorated pot collection. Let me take some of these and put them together, shall I, so you can see what they look like. It's a fairly normal process to craft these, but once you make it, it all of a sudden looks way better just through the tiny accent of this little blue above and below what you're looking at. It's a slight futuristic upgrade to something that is very prehistoric, and something which, let's be real, not enough of us spend enough time with. Maybe you'd be incentivized with this texture pack. Equally, but in the exact opposite direction, villagers. Yes, this is really what they look like. It's something I think is really charming because so many texture packs will change every single mob to the point where they're unrecognizable, and I think that you shouldn't do that for animals, but I really like the idea of doing it for villagers because they have 2 functions in your Minecraft world. One is to be traded with, and that still works just great, by the way, but the second is obviously to add to the life of your world, and so giving them a fun new purpose, as long as all of their existing functions work, is actually really great. And in fact, their existing functions don't just work, but they're better. You can see, for example, this is a cartographer quite easily, and if I were to find a librarian in my village, which I hope I will be able to on short notice, but if I were to find a librarian, I'd find him immediately obvious as well. All of these extra details makes you want to see the villagers again, which I think is an important part of what a texture pack provides for some people in their worlds. Some people might be going for the opposite, which is why they'd really like lava, in my opinion. As you can see, the lava is very, very scary and deadly. I can't say the same for campfires, which for some reason they're meant to be smoky. They put up love hearts instead, but lava is very, very ridiculously good looking, in my opinion. It looks like it should melt you alive, and I'm scared to jump through it, even though I know I've got a safe bed in here. Oh god, I should not have done that. But there is a... Nope, there's no bed in here. There's just a respawn anchor. What was I thinking? Ah. Just in case you were curious about the campfires under the lava, a fun fact is that they can catch fire. I think it looks pretty good here, by the way, but they will never burn out entirely, something which is very handy for most people. Another fiery thing I quite like are the furnaces, which actually look like they're made from cobblestone, like they actually are, and I do think this is a really cutesy small detail. As you can see, it looks like they're in love with these heart effects, which, you know, I can't really fully blame them there, but this is something I love as a furnace design, regardless of what you think of the fire inside of it. Why do the torches love me as well? It makes no sense. Also, to some people, you might look at this animal and say it makes no sense. However, it's actually the national animal of Scotland. You can fact check me and look that up, by the way. Wow, he even makes love hearts when I tame him as well. That's obviously a Minecraft thing, but it's fun that they kept it. Another thing I really like is the glass. It's less obtrusive than the default texture, and while the same can't be said for iron bars, I really like them regardless. This actually looks like how a castle gate should look, in my opinion, and although we can't go through there right now, sadly, it's nice to see that it's functioning regardless. Something else I think they made strides with is the default grass color for most of the biomes. A lot of people find savannas to be too ugly to build there in a long-term sense, and I think that this is a pretty nice green, but it's even nicer when you get to just a default plains. You don't have to look specifically for a jungle to get that nice saturated grass, because it's available in far more places here, it seems. Seriously, the only color I find myself disagreeing with is this extreme hills kind of high up texture that you can see right here, and it's not that it's bad, it's just not as nice as the Savannah green, in my opinion. Another natural ingredient in a world that I really like is ice. I think this is a really cool texture. It looks kind of like you expect ice to in the super frozen state of it, and I think that's kind of beautiful personally. There's a few parts of my world it doesn't perfectly work on, but speaking of things that don't perfectly work in most people's worlds, this is an example of something that does. Look look at my enchantment table tree and see how beautiful it looks. I think this is a nice improvement on that, and that is probably 10 things. Just in case it wasn't though, and you're looking for something to love, here is a Cherry Grove door. But anyway, let's get into the main texture pack review now, and I do this in my Let's Play world. This is an 11-year-old Minecraft world, and I use this as a litmus test for any texture pack, because if a world can look good for a texture pack, it's something that's really easy to, I guess, fake, you could say. If you build a world around a texture pack, that is easy to do. However, if you have a vanilla world and you're looking to add a texture pack to it, it doesn't matter how good something can look in theory if it ruins all of your existing stuff. And so the first category I like to look at is your existing builds. This is my Let's Play house, and as you can see from the inside, although the wood looks a bit more grainy, in general I would say that this house looks just fine actually. I like that the banner is not messed with in any meaningful way, and I like that all of the textures in my inventory and elsewhere are immediately clear as to what they represent. This is nice and makes me fairly confident that I can add it to my world without being entirely messed up by anything. You can see that even the cows right here have a very different texture, but you have no question as to the fact that they're cows because they, no, I mean ignoring the mooing, but ignoring that, you can see they keep the same model and rough shape, they just retexture it in a fairly nice way. Also, the best example I can say for something that isn't true here is my giant potion bottle, which is probably a little bit jankier than it would be in the default Minecraft pack, but basically everything else around here, including my giant emerald mega beacon, is in fact usable in the same normal way. So this is a beacon, which by the way I have to say, they really love this heart effect because they've included it over here as well, and looking around at basically any other build you'll come across in this world, they all hold their shape pretty darn well from my experience so far, and hopefully from your experience looking, which is a really nice thing to be able to say. The same is true for nature, more or less, because even though they've improved quite a few biomes, I would have to say that the swamp looks just about as depressing as it does normally, but a lot of other biomes have got slightly improved grass, but there's no question as to which biome grass represents which color, and indeed, even though you look at some natural features and you see a bit more detail, like grass and like leaves are another great example, I would say these aren't detracting from what you see when you look at them. Also, something fun is the fact that, yeah, looking around any of the wildlife will also make this very clear that you're in a different world, you're in a slightly fantasy world, but it's clearly a Minecraft one. It's not going too balls to the wall, something which I appreciate. I think a lot of people, do like texture packs which entirely change your Minecraft experience, and this is not that. If you are looking for it, this texture pack is not going to provide, but if you want something which gives you a Minecraft plus experience, I think this does that quite nicely. And I do also think that these swords are done better in this texture pack than any of the other ones I've seen recently. Speaking of recently, let's also take a peek at my giant banner, which also is pulled off more or less the same as it is in vanilla, something which is fairly nice, I have to say. There's a lot of brand new textures and things that you'll spot as you go around the world, but somehow they cohesively form the same thing. So the only other part of the overworld that I feel like we need to test out is something which is very much man-made and comes into existing builds, but is very, very important to some, and that is, of course, how do armor trims and paintings look? Well, for armor trims, as you can see, they all do have their own fun designs. I think armor as a whole looks very, very beefy in this set. Here is me with a chest plate on versus my Elytra. You can see it is a ridiculous difference. It is very, very bulky armor. By the way, you can also see one of the other fun changes they made for me here, because by default, this pack has quite a few nice paintings. I think they fit this cartoonish fantasy theme really, really well. It looks like look at that, they've got a salmon in there already. But I did ask politely, I was like, oh, I really like this pack, by the way. And they were actually willing to change a couple of paintings for me if I gave them some inspiration. And let me just say, I love what they've decided to do. Man, look at this. This is the craziest thing. It's inside the Let's Play world. There's a painting of the Let's Play world in the Let's Play world now, and that makes me very happy. Same is true for this, and for any of you out there that think this is nice, I also love that you can see this in Minecraft. This is really fun, right? I think this is a really, really cute little addition to the world, and it's something I really appreciated the makers of this pack being able to do for me, and it's something that I really do think is kind of cute. It is something that I do have to say, like, also, by the way, these cat ears on the helmet are another thing in that same vein. It's something that I want to say as a clear thing here. This is something that will affect my opinion, of course. I am, I did speak to the developers, and they were very, very nice to me, including these things in the pack, and also including the couple of things I'll show you soon. However, that is something that will therefore affect my opinion. So, although this is an unbiased texture pack review to the best of my ability, I think it is hard for some people to say truly unbiased in the face of things like this, because look at the helmet. This is the helmet before they updated it, but they decided to add these cute little cat ears because I asked nicely for a Netherite helmet to have this as a potential upgrade. And now if you get to the Netherite level on this particular texture pack, you get cat ears as a nice bonus, something I really love. But also they did something else which I thought was really, really handy, because I mentioned to them, like, I think something that makes the texture pack a lot better, this is what I used to love about the Halo texture pack on the Xbox days, but something that makes the texture pack a lot better is when a carved pumpkin is actually usable. This is something a texture pack controls, and so here is what it looked like in the prior version, but I mentioned to them, you know, you could probably make this pack a lot better and more desirable for people if you made the carved pumpkin just, you know, still, you know, in the way of people, but a little bit less in the way. And wait, I just realized this right now. I did not ask for this at all. They've done this entirely with their own volition. The pumpkin has a little cat mask going for it. It's got 3 little whiskers and a nose and some eye. This is adorable. Look at this. My mouth is glitching through it, but I love this regardless. And yeah, personally, I think that a carved pumpkin has far too big of a downside in default Minecraft to ever be considered usable. And I do think that that's one of these slight tweaks you can make of a texture pack, and this one does it quite nicely. You still don't want to have this on unnecessarily, but you won't worry about putting this on when you go to the end. Something I have to say I love and makes me want to fight the Ender Dragon. Speaking of things that make me want to fight the Ender Dragon, let's go to the Nether now. And you won't get any points for guessing the particle effect around the Nether portal, by the way, but you'll see the Nether is very different to the particles which surround the portal, and that is because it's a little bit, well, honestly, bland. I do think this is one of the weakest parts of the texture pack, because although it is a brand new Nether brick texture, it's a brand new Netherrack texture, and indeed it's a brand new Strider and zombie pigment texture. I do have to say I like the Strider having these super, super long wings. That's actually very cute. But although everything is technically very different, I would have to say outside of the lava, and indeed outside of the magma as well, if you haven't seen magma yet, let me show you some of that, you can see that most of the basic Nether textures look pretty close to identical to vanilla. This is potentially a very good thing if you want a texture pack which is basically, oh, okay, here we go, here's the magma. This is pretty good if you want a texture pack which is basically just vanilla, with some fun animated magma, which I do quite like, but in general, this means that the Nether experience isn't going to be that fresh and exciting. It's just a Nether with a fun thing on top of it. This can be pretty good if you intend on doing a lot of your own building in the Nether. I think you can make something that is very story time, very fantasy, very cartoon style out of this. But as far as the base Nether itself, at least in the Nether waste biome, it's pretty samey. This could be a real good strength. The tiny texture differences can be appreciated without having to fear for your life because you don't know what a ghast looks like, or you don't know what a given mob or area is going to look like. But it is something which you might have to keep in mind if you're looking forward to a fresh new Nether. It is mostly, okay, by the way, look at this. Where is the ghast? There is the ghast. They have a sleepy, happy face, and also the ghast fireballs they shoot have these lovely hearts coming off them, because of course they do. I do quite like the wings that they have for ears. It's quite hard to show them off, but if you look to the side here, you can see that they're actually winged beasts, which is a cute little detail, but otherwise it's just ghasts and in the Nether. What about the underground, I hear you asking though? Well, to show you that, I need to first show you a bed. I love that the red bed has this almost Scottish quilt on it, and I also need to show you my cave house. So this is made exclusively from smooth stone, or I guess just regular stone I should say at this point, now that smooth stone is a thing, but this is just made from regular old stone, and honestly it looks a little bit better than default stone. Maybe the tiniest bit too clayish, but I'm sure most people wouldn't get these two things confused. But if we were to take a bit of a deeper dive, you'd be able to see all of the other cave blocks, and some of them look magnificent. Look at amethyst, look at even gravel. Man, pulling off a good gravel is really, really hard. But if we take a even deeper dive and go fully underground, you can see that looking around that most of the blocks underground are very recognizable in a way that actually is very colorful and fun. Looking at the ores, you can see that there is a nice variety right here, and oh my god. Okay, my criticism is not everything needs to be a heart, and also, although these are very large textures, which is good for actually just mining, I think some people might find them to be a little bit samey, and I might even be on that team, that although these are good readable textures, they're not the best best textures overall, but they are something that would be very easy for you to find while going mining underground, just like you could say is true for dripstone here, which I don't think anyone is getting confused by. Basically, everything in this pack does just the right amount of changing, for my opinion, which is to say, like, yeah, you can tell what something is, but some of the blocks look way better in that way, or at least more colorful and cartoony, or more fantasy, and honestly, I didn't figure you could blend such a serious fantasy pack with such a fun and cartoony one, but this has done a really good job, at least for the underground. But what about the end? Well, my first impression of the end is, wow, look at that portal, and my second impression of the end after actually jumping in is, oh, look at the endstone block. It looks like a sniffer shell, but it's everywhere for some reason. Oh, yeah, I do not love this, has to be said. I think this could be a really cool block to bring back from the end into the overworld, and I bet if you made some endstone, it would also look pretty great. Actually, in fact, let's find out. If we made some endstone bricks, they would look like this, which honestly, yeah, I kind of like that too. But the base end is not my favorite thing. If you spend most of your time exclusively in the end, this isn't the texture pack for you, but if you bring some endstone back with you, you could do some really cool things, and if you were willing to just destroy your end and remove all of this stone, then all of the other elements here look really fun. Look at the bedrock and look at these look at these portals, look at the obsidian right here, and most importantly, if your end happens to be covered in glass, wow, that also looks very good. I mostly just love this portal though. This is the most gorgeous effect I've ever seen, and it's making me question, why don't all end portals look this good? When people make texture packs, why do they ever cheap out on something so nice? I really do have to question. And so, yeah, I would say the end and the Nether are definite weak points in this pack, but the overworld and the fun that you get from mixing the blocks around between them might just make up for that, and definitely are the serious strengths of this pack, which, in my opinion, has really good elements from both fantasy and cartoon, something that should be impossible, but something you've all seen is very probable, and if that's not enough for you, then I think it's finally time to do a review. This pack is criminally underrated on the marketplace, and at least for now, as a ex-console player, this is going to be my go-to when I want to add a little bit of class and flavor to a stream. The fun thing about speaking to the people who make it too is the fact that they gave me a decent guarantee that if I was going to promote the map like I would do in this video, they would keep it updated, and so you'll notice it has all of the 1.20 features and will have all of the 1.21 features after its release too. It's nice to know that you're not just paying for a pack and all of the customizations to the UI that you can get with it, but also you're getting free automatic updates, which was one of the biggest appeals of the console era, and something I am happy to see repeating itself right here. For now though, I hope you've all enjoyed Texture Pack Review. If you do, then I look forward to seeing you in the next one too. Goodbye.